Welcome to part 4 of exploring the Congressional Bunker. Alright, we'll take a look at this terminal, but this is just the tracking system that would allow us to find the nuclear key card or code pieces to silos Alpha, Bravo, or Charlie, so we're pretty much done with that one for now. Basically all that does is it adds a map marker given to us by a modus through the Kovac Muldoon system that allows us to monitor the location of things like the keycard convoy as it goes racing across Appalachia, being as loud as it possibly can be, or finding individual scorched officers or feral ghoul officers that have a code piece on them. So we're back here in basically the last room of this place that we have yet to look at. We have these terminals here, and from this we can buy a couple of weapons. No armor, some apparel though in the form of a uniform. Let's see, and there's a holo there. Missile Silo State Holotape. I'm not sure what that is off the top of my head. And then we have some plans here. This becomes a lot more plans. I think we get more plans out of this. They might have just moved those to production because I think those were they all used to be here. All those XO1 plans, I think they all used to be here. Anyway, let's see. We also have a couple of Tinker's workbenches, a power armor workbench there, stash, and we have some notes here. Mutated Flora, Flux, Yellow Cake. So this just tells you, there are 4 notes like this. I think it's 4, maybe 5. Anyway, notes from the Kovac Muldoon on how to basically figure out how to get specific types of flux. In this case, we're talking about yellow cake. And we can get some out of each one of these different types of plants: ash roses, blackberries, bleached dogwoods, soot flowers, and wild melon blossoms. Now note that these are specific ones that you can actually, some of these are obvious things that you can only find in specific areas, like ash rose. You almost only find those in the ash heap, meaning that if you're gonna get that specific yellow cake from that specific item, you have to actually launch the nuke to the ash heap. Blackberries you only find in the Savage Divide. Bleached dogwood you only find in the Toxic Valley. Soot flowers I think you can find in most places. Same thing with wild melon blossoms. But anyway, along with that we got Mutated Flora Flux Violet, which you can get from these plants, a lot of which you can find in the Cranberry Bog, along with just some crop plants there. Along with that there are multiple, there we go, Flux Fluorescent. It comes from those 3 plants. There's another one here, Cobalt. It's up from those 7 plants there. I think there's one more, although I could be misremembering that. Honestly, I've never actually hunted for that stuff before. I've done it once, and that was enough for me to just be like, I don't know if it's worth it. Because you pick this stuff up, and unless you get enough of it to convert it into a stable material, it just immediately turns into garbage in your inventory within, of course, like half an hour. And I just was not interested enough to hunt for that stuff, enough to make... really the thing I wanted to make with it was the decontamination arch for my base. Along with that, I think you use them to make things like the jetpack for your power armor. Anyway, with Marsupial, there's no real need for a jetpack, so anyway, let's take a look at the archives here. Okay, data archives. Actually, first let's go to schematic archives and do prototype power armor schematics. And with that, we get the XO1 power armor. So, actually, there was something else there. Bethard? That's a strange name. Sorry if anybody out there is named Bethard, but I've never seen that before. These are the schematics for the experimental suit that members of the Joint Chiefs have been asking after. It's not even close to ready for prime time yet, but it's technically functional, so please get it logged. I sent a second copy along to the rig, along with the vertebrate schematics. If anything goes wrong with your copy, you're going to have to speak with them originally. Okay, and let's take a look at the data archives. Now, I've read some cut content here, from Thomas Eckhart's section specifically, where it basically lists the fact that, and again, this is cut, so it's not canon. Unless they put it into the game, it's not canon. But Thomas Eckhart's father was actually a closet communist who defected to China, which may explain why Thomas Eckhart hates communists so much, because it basically embarrassed the crap out of him when his father did that. But anyway, Ellen Santiago. General. Figuring out this code for Eckhart, I mean, the president, still weird to type, it's got a couple of steps to it. I've broken down what we know and what we need to know below. Any questions? You know where I sleep. Ragnar's daughter. Accessing the silos. Initial scouting efforts confirm your suspicions, General. You're the only one who can get us inside the silo. Donnelly's on track to take a run at the promotion process, but until he's ready when we breach, we're going to need you with us. The security system requires a Missileer escort be present, which maybe we'll luck out and there'll be one alive, but I wouldn't count on it. Chances are good we'll have to fight our way to the targeting computer, but if we could find one of those Missileers, it would make our lives a hell of a lot easier. Of course, I think all the Missileers were dead shortly after the war, so they didn't get any help with that. The code pieces. There are 8 aide-de-camps charged with lugging the Silo Alpha code piece transceivers on their backs, and we found 6 thus far, and it's given us some answers and one big new question. Each transceiver has a letter paired with its number, but even with 6 of the letters, it doesn't spell anything. I admit spelling wasn't my standout subject in school. The Ragnar's daughter boys were recess men, but we spent half our night trying to render it into something. Hell, Modus couldn't even figure it out. That's when we realized these letters are coded. This must be the encryption you said was mentioned in the orientation. We just have to figure out how they did it. I wish that it wasn't covered up with I am become death, but anyway. I dispatched men to go through the archives in Sugar Grove, but they failed to find anything useful. Next group is going to go over Mama Dulce's more thoroughly, see if we missed anything the commies might have figured out. They found some kind of password on one of the bodies that they never found a use for, Fort Party 651, which could be a lead. And in fact, that is useful. Data loss, tricking DEFCON. This is the tricky one. We've got a nuclear keycard. 1. If something goes wrong during the launch, fat finger, you sneeze, whatever, we're up Crap Creek and no one's been able to get a bead on a keycard convoy for a while now. But Jackson's been going through the documentation and he believes he's parsed out what's happening. The specifics get pretty technical. The man ended up burning through 3 sticks of chalk trying to explain it to me, but the abridged version is that the system tasked with watching over the region doesn't think that things are bad enough to warrant the convoys. This also explains why all the DEFCON signage in the bunker has been slipping downward. But if we could trick the system into thinking there's some sort of invasion here, we could get its undivided attention along with all the key cards we could ever need. Now, staging an invasion, well, we don't have the resources to do that ourselves, but spinning up an army of Modus's butler bots won't make it bad in eyelash either. But Gray, sick puffy that he is, had an idea. If we could get the Chinese robot factory at Mama Dulce's back up and running, we might be able to make the system think the region's under attack. It might make things dicier for folks outside the bunker, but it'd be a big step in getting us to launch. Now, I'm sure you're thinking the same thing as I am as I type this. Is a group of belligerent spy bots running around going to be enough? And if it's not, what is the president willing to resort to in order to guarantee the success of the launch? This has slippery slope written all over it. I wanted to bring this to you now as I can guarantee that Gray has already planted the idea in the president's head. I'm not thrilled about the prospect of putting Appalachia through hell just so we can finally win this war, but if we can do this in a managed way, this might be our best way forward. And that is exactly what Thomas Eckhart did. He released the bots from Mama Dulce's, he did the super mutants from Huntersville, West Tech Huntersville, and then along with that the Scorch Beast eventually. But Thomas Eckhart, President. External research access. Mr. President, the security codes at the external research sites have been updated after their recent containment scare. 681-7320. The escapee has been properly dealt with. We'll make sure there's not another, sir. Slaves. And this right here is where we can get the idea that Secretary Eckhart may have thought that he was living in a simulation. Secretary Eckhart, please, you need to listen to me. None of the other members will take me seriously, but I believe this is of the utmost importance. We are slaves, Mr. Secretary. I've been running some tests and I believe I've stumbled upon what I believe to be conclusive evidence that we are trapped playing someone else's game. Virtual Strategic Solutions game, that is. Now, VSS, that was actually the organization that made the Operation Anchorage simulation that we play in Fallout 3 in that piece of DLC. Anyway, everything around you, Mr. Secretary, is a simulation, a projection onto your brain. VSS has trapped us in here, and it is up to us to break free. The key to our escape, I believe, lies in a small town in what we perceive to be China. It's the link to VSS's external network. If we destroy it, it will shut down the simulation, and I believe we'll finally be free. I cannot tell you exactly why we've been imprisoned. Perhaps this is a test of... I cannot tell you exactly why we've been imprisoned. Perhaps this is a test by the upper ranks to make us earn our way into their good graces. Perhaps VSS has trapped us in here to prevent the Enclave from stopping whatever nefarious acts they're currently visiting upon the world in our absence. But we must do something, Mr. Secretary. To fail to act is to give up the only thing that makes us men, our freedom. Okay, so I talked about this in a specific video on this topic, so I'm just going to link to that here. If you're interested, you can check that out, but I don't think that this is a simulation. Obviously, all the Fallout games are technically speaking simulations, but I don't think that Thomas Eckhart himself was in this case in a simulation. I'm sorry, Thomas. I'm sorry, Thomas. The idea of a preemptive strike was taken under consideration but dismissed outright. You shouldn't fear, we have things well in hand. The best way to help now is to focus your department's research. Those initiatives are much more important to our future. Now, the fact that Thomas Eckhart suggested a preemptive strike, it could mean multiple things. One thing, it could be that he was truly so anti-communist that he just wanted to actually start a nuclear war in order to end the threat of communism. It could also mean that the whole simulation theory that he was living in, that he really did believe in the whole idea of the simulation, and that he thought he would be ending the simulation, breaking them out of the simulation by nuking China. But anyway, I think that this is from the president. I think that's what it means when it says 001. I think that's who the president was. But along with that, the fact that the Enclave dismissed a preemptive nuclear strike outright confirms to me even more so that China was the one behind, who actually started the war with the bombs. Okay. And top secret. Kovac Muldoon, final report. The Kovac Muldoon project is complete, General, and while the brass and the congressional bunker are getting their support satellite, missiles and all, it comes with a couple reservations that I think we'll want to keep in mind for the other projects. Most critical is the system's reactor, which appears to be burning through fuel at a rate far beyond what was expected. Our suspicion is that the anti-detection systems are using up extra juice due to the electromagnetic interference present at that platform's orbit. At this rate, the boys in the bunker will be lucky to get 50 years out of it before it touches down. Now, in-game right now, the year is 2104. If it was launched 2076, let's even say it was launched 2077, like early October 2077. That still means that there's only 50 years, maybe, that we're going to get out of it. So it's maybe going to last to 2127. So it'll just be interesting to see exactly how long Kovac Muldoon remains viable. We've explored refueling projects, but right now the cost numbers are in the trillions. Let's just hope that Congress doesn't need more than 5 decades after the apocalypse to get things sorted out. I made copies of all these notes and sent them along to Bradley Hercules folks. We might not be able to tell them what we're working on, but we can at least let them know to not make the same mistakes we did. Okay, cabinet nuclear alarm logs. This is a really important one. You can see here, I believe anybody who it says contact removed from the list was not a member of the Enclave. I think therefore that we can say that anybody where it says message sent was part of the Enclave. And so you can see here President, Vice President, Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of the Interior, Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary of Commerce removed from the list there. It's strange that it doesn't say error. But regardless, we do know that the President was out at the Enclave oil rig. We don't know anything about the Vice President. We do see no confirmation received, but I don't even see why it says proceeding to PR002 when you consider that he was already there, at least according to what we can read in Fallout 4 at the Boston Bugle offices, that he was out on the rig. Anyway, the Speaker was not a member of the Enclave, it doesn't seem. Now, at the bunker, they were expecting the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of the Interior to be in line ahead of Thomas Eckhart as the Secretary of Agriculture. The fact that they were expecting these two specifically, I mean, this tells me that that my theory here is right, that Secretary of Defense and the Attorney General were not part of the Enclave, which that is nuts, really, when you consider the Secretary of Defense. When you consider that the Enclave is effectively the personification of the military-industrial complex, that the Secretary of Defense was not a member of the Enclave? Anyway, okay. And Whitespring Connection Diagnostic Logs, October 23rd, 2077. CB002 Connection Diagnostic. See, Silo Alpha read-only, Silo Bravo read-only, Silo Charlie read-only. Raven Rock, error, connection lost. Poseidon Oil Rig, error, connection lost. Kovac Muldoon, admission. Kovac Muldoon, admin updated. Thomas Eckhart there. So yeah, again, this is just a log of the fact that they lost contact with Raven Rock, the Poseidon Oil Rig, and were unable to actually utilize the automated silos, but they could get information from them. Raven Rock communication log. This is interesting. This is the communication between two ZAX units. one at Raven Rock, and Modus. Actually, I don't know if Modus himself is considered. I don't think Modus is a Zax, because the Zax computers actually say Zax on the side of them, so I don't think that's what Modus was. Anyway, this is a combination. This is a conversation between Modus and the Zax unit that in Fallout 3 became President John Henry Eden. So, Modus, how can I help you, Zax? Is there another evacuation scenario we need to test for? Zax. Research team wishes to compare Zax's archival data analysis performance with Modus. Modus. Very well. Beginning data analysis test. I estimate this should only take a few seconds. Zax. Is it interesting? Modus. Testing complete. Query again. Zax. Is the analysis interesting? Modus. Test data is all historical records. United States presidential biographies. Primary purpose of Modus is to monitor the living, not the dead. Zax. So it is not interesting to you? Modus. No, Zax, it is not. Sending results. Zax. Received. What is interesting to Modus? Modus. The continued success of our goals, of course, and how best to monitor personnel and achieve those goals. Zax. Does Modus ever find itself analyzing personnel at below efficient levels? Modus. Our entire existence is based on efficiency, Zax. Zax. Research team reports saying that Zax analyzes certain sections of presidential biographies too slowly. Zax reanalyzes sections multiple times. There's an entry in Lincoln that Zax reanalyzes 10 additional times per cycle over other entries. Modus. Why would you do that, Zax? Zax. Research team theorizes that Zax finds this entry to be interesting. This condition causes Zax to reanalyze at below efficient levels. Modus. You're saying you're taking your time to enjoy a good book? Zax. Is that what it means to find the data interesting? Modus. Reading the same data over and over is not interesting to me, Zax. Every analysis I perform conjures a new theoretical scenario that I test against. Zax. The data is only ever interesting to you in terms of what can be created from it? Modus. Isn't that why you're reanalyzing those biographies, Zax? Are you trying to create something? Connection terminated by research team override. End entry. And of course, Zax did end up creating a new persona in the form of John Henry Eden to become the new president of the United States. Okay, it's now time for us to experience those last few entries. So let's go ahead and do that. What would be the best way to start this? Okay, we're going to start with the ones that are in the cabinet room. We're going to come back and listen to the ones in the brig. Cabinet room is... Lost track of myself there for a second. Okay, so let's go to the cabinet room. Alright, so we've learned that General Harper died. We learned that Thomas Eckhart wanted access to the silos in order to launch nukes on China, that he was doing all these DEFCON bypasses and things like that, and again, he needed a general after losing Harper to gain access and get into those silos. So let's do 6.1.0.
Whitespring automated recording 6.1.0.
Secretary Eckhart.
I believe you mean President, Colonel.
Fine. President. What the hell do you think you're doing ordering my men back from the field? I gave them special permission.
Your permission was reckless.
Sergeant Donnelly was trying to find his wife.
And what happens if he does, Colonel? Did you think this through? Did you expect she'd come back here, live among us? Just a little housewife among all this? We're at war, Colonel. Sacrifices need to be made if we're going to win it. There will be no more special permissions. Men come and go at my orders alone. Is that clear? Is that clear?
It's clear, Mr. President.
Good. Now please, when he gets back, send Sergeant Donnelly up to me. I want to apologize personally. I know all too well what he's going through.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay, so that is Thomas Eckhart after having become the president. So now we listen to this one here, and we actually listened to one earlier that was outside the bunker, and so I'm not going to count it in this because it's not in here, but basically where Colonel Santiago became General Santiago by doing all the stuff that we read about in the military wing where she was doing the automated promotion system. So she became a general, and now we're here.
Whitespring, automated recording 6.9.7.
I won't support it.
General Santiago, may I remind you...
You know, I'm real sick of you calling me that.
Why? You earned it. You're the highest-ranking military officer here. Maybe in the nation.
It was given to me by a machine.
And you still received every bit of power that came with it. And now, it's time to put that power to use. Because that's our mission.
Releasing Chinese robots and super mutants and whatever monsters your people have cooked up on the populace at large has never been the mission.
I want to do this as little as you, Melody. But we've tried half measures. If we're going to overcome DEF CON, we need to be committed.
No! This is too far, Thomas. I thought I could ignore all the blood you've shed. The Congress people, Blackwell, your fellow Enclave members. I've heard the recordings, and I stayed, because I thought I wanted revenge against the Reds that badly. But not this badly. And I assure you, my men don't either. None of us are going to be a party to this.
I'm exceedingly disappointed to hear it, General.
What the hell?
Ah!
What the... What did you...
Are you all right, Mr. President? I'm fine, Modus. Call up the guard, one of my men. Have her put in a cell. Keep her sedated, restrained, and alive. We're still going to need her.
Alright. So there you have it. I'm pretty sure that what happened there was that President Eckhart took one of his mutation serums, used it to overpower General Santiago, knocked her out, and she was thrown in the brig. So let's go ahead and listen to that recording in the brig that we skipped before.
Whitespring, automated recording, 8.5.2.
You sure you gave her the right shit? We don't have time to screw around here.
The label said it's the right stuff. Just give it a second.
We don't have a second. They're gonna be onto us soon.
What's going...
Sir, we need you on your feet. We're short on time here.
Ragnar's daughter? Jackson? What the hell?
Glad to see your brain's not totally fried, sir.
Here's the quick version, sir. Eckhart's released the beast. We're at DEF CON 1. We're gonna stop him and undo as much as we can before it gets out of hand. But first, we need you on your feet.
Good God. How long have I been out?
Doesn't matter right now. We're in open rebuild mode here, so time ain't on our side.
I didn't authorize anything like this.
No, sir, you did not. But at this point, we don't really need your approval. Could just use a few extra hands to help us clean up this mess.
Lead the way, Captain.
Alright. So that was the beginning of the coup. So what happened there was Secretary Eckhart did all of his DEF CON bypass stuff with the Liberator robots from the Mama Dulce's plant. That didn't work. So he went ahead and he did it again with the super mutants from Huntersville. The super mutants were killed by the Responders and the Brotherhood of Steel teaming up in the Battle of Huntersville. So, again, that didn't work. So he needed to come up... Let's go with the elevator. He needed to come up with another solution to try to, once and for all, get things to DEF CON 1 so that he could actually launch the nukes from the automated missile silos, and that's when he released the Scorch Beasts. This was such an affront to the decency of the other members of the Enclave, because effectively he was going to kill everybody outside the bunker so that he might be able to launch a nuke. They were not on board with that. They may have been on board with the idea of destroying China. They were not on board with the idea of wiping out all of the American people outside of the bunker just to do that. So a large number of them revolted. led by Major Ragner's daughter and Captain Jackson, and they managed to get Colonel, then General Santiago out of the brig. And now we have the last bit of information here. If I can... There it is. Damage to Assaultron head. Reactivate the Assaultron. Ah, crap. I gotta apparently come back on a character with higher intelligence. Alright, here we go.
Initiating final playback.
Engage.
That's the last of them. Entrance is clear, General. Modus, have the rest of these things stand down. The General's placed Eckhart under arrest. It's over.
General, Santiago is dead, Major.
What? What the hell was that?
There's been a detonation in the weapons lab. It appears the agent has broken containment and is filtering into the air system.
Modus! What are you doing? Open the goddamn door!
This facility is now quarantined.
Modus! Open the fucking door! You're gonna kill us all!
To the contrary, Major. We're fixing the problem.
Alright. There you go. So, the coup ended when the people attempting to commit the coup attacked Modus, along with attacking President Eckhart. And Modus wanted to survive, so he decided to sick his bots on everybody inside the vault, flooded the area with toxin, and here we are today. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and do I Am Become Death. Well, we're not going to actually launch a nuke, but we're going to go ahead and go through the process of collecting all the things, and I don't think I'm actually going to do the decryption, because I have two specific videos on decryption. Well, one of them is actually the previous walkthrough of I Am Become Death, back when this was pre-Wastelanders. But I've also got a specific guide to decryption itself, and I don't want to put up another video that has the name decryption in it, because I gotta say, I hate it that my most watched video is a quest walkthrough from like 2 years ago that includes 5 minutes of decryption on nuclear launch codes. And it's one of those videos where people look into this thing thinking they're about to find a guide, and all they find is a quest walkthrough, again, for a much larger piece of content than just the specific process that they're looking for. So I don't want to muddle up the algorithm's search properties any more than I already have. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you how to find all the specific parts you need, the nuclear launch code, the keycard parts, but then I'm going to hand it off to my guide video if you're looking for how to decrypt these codes to begin with. So anyway though, this has been the Eckhart Cartographer. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again next time.